In this video, we'll discuss how to clay a katana blade in preparation for heat treating. One of the biggest problems bladesmiths have when doing a Japanese-style quench is getting the clay to stick to the blade. Over the years, I've developed methods that make the clay stick so well that my biggest problem is removing it afterward. With these techniques, I get essentially perfect results every time, and I'm going to share my methods with you now. The first step is to roughen the surface of the blade with a file so the clay will stick to it. Since I profiled the blade with a file in the previous video, no additional roughening is needed. Next, I lightly oxidize the surface of the blade by heating it with an oxygen acetylene torch. I heat the blade slowly and carefully. I don't want it to warp. I only want to heat it enough that it produces bluish-gray patches of oxidation. This multicolored mottled look is what we're going for. My clay recipe doesn't actually contain any clay. I use 3 parts furnace cement and 1 part red iron oxide. I'll refer to this mixture as clay in this video because that's the generally accepted term for the stuff you put on the blade before quenching it, whatever stuff that may be. I add water and mix. The consistency I'm looking for is something like a thin milkshake. I start by covering the entire blade with a thin, even layer a couple millimeters thick. Then I remove clay along the cutting edge using sticks of different sizes and shapes. Something of the pattern made by removing the clay creates the pattern of the hamon. The pattern in the clay doesn't transfer perfectly to the hamon, but it does influence the shape of the hamon. I like this method of scraping the clay away using sticks because it creates a thicker bead of material at the boundary between clay and no clay. Once I've scraped away clay along the length of the cutting edge, I lay down little vertical lines. These act to de-stress the cutting edge and prevent fractures during the quench, and they also produce interesting visual effects in the hamon. This is what the completed clay pattern looks like, and obviously I repeat this process on both sides of the blade. Next, I light my forge and let it heat at full blast, all 3 burners, for 30 seconds. Then I turn off the flame and insert the blade into the hot forge to dry the clay and bake it onto the blade. Once the clay is baked on, the blade is ready to quench. In my next video, I'll demonstrate how the blade is quenched and tempered. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next installment.